Good morning. Gosh, full house. Fantastic. Thank you very much. Can I just check everyone can hear me okay? Because I can't quite hear myself. Wonderful. Thank you. My name is Saleha Williams. I'm one of the digital partners at Cognizant. And we have a treat for you this morning. We have Google, who you may have heard of, and also DAZN. So I have with me this morning to talk about commercial and creative opportunities in sports broadcasting. And some of you may remember the film reference, which is part of the title, Show Me the Money. We're seeing a lot of explosion around data and digital and opportunities for growth, but who is really taking advantage of that to create the revenues and the value within the business commercially to really exploit that to its full extent? So Google and DAZN are going to talk to us this morning. We have Jess Arden, who is, and let me get this right, the Director of Product, Web Acquisition and Retention at DAZN. And then we also have Yonatan Matalon, the Strategic Partner Lead at Google. So thank you so much for joining me this morning. And also thank you to Justin Gupta at Google for setting up this panel at BVE in the first place. Why don't I come to you first of all, Jess? Give us a little intro to who you are, and for those who don't know who DAZN are.
Sure. So I'm Jess, and I run the part of the product team at DAZN that looks after the sign-up funnel. We also look after the help and account management sections, and of course cancellation, because some people like to do that. And I look at the product perspective. So how do you actually design those flows, and how do we acquire customers, keep them, and then help them go if they're ready to go.
Fantastic. Now, Yonatan, I think a few people may have heard of you. Do you want to give us an overview of your role particularly and what you do at Google?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for coming this morning. I'm working at Google, and I'm working with broadcasters and media organizations to shape their strategy around monetization and distribution in a digital world. So, as you may know, Google have different propositions around monetization, around distribution of content, around the delivery of content, and we are working with broadcasters and media organizations to understand what are the opportunities, what are the challenges they are facing, and how they can partner with Google to be more successful in this world.
Great, thank you. So let me come to you first, Jess. DAZN are one of the fastest growing sports broadcasters, distributors in the world. I mean, your acquisition of rights in the sports space is huge. What do you think is the right strategy, being part of this very dynamic digital native, to really build audiences in a digital future?
Yeah, so for us, we've taken an approach of designing our sign-up funnel in a really simple way, and we have a really interesting challenge, and in fact, it's the part of my job that I enjoy the most, which is you've got a global brand, and it's growing quickly, but at the same time, you have to localize for every single market. And for us, it becomes even more exciting. So you might localize the sign-up funnel for Japan. For example, you might switch the first name and last name fields to be in the opposite order, because that's how someone might expect it to be. But also, on the other hand, you need to have a global view. And when someone comes to DAZN, they need to be able to immediately tell that this is DAZN. So for us, our opportunity is in understanding for each of those audiences, how do they come to our product? How does someone come to DAZN? What do they know about us when they get there? And for us, the most interesting part of that is making sure that you approach them on their own territory. So depending on what device they're on, depending on what country they're in, it should feel entirely natural and normal to them to come upon us, and we should have all the information laid out for them in that way. So when we look at designing our sign-up funnels and acquiring customers, we have this interesting challenge of having a global brand, but making sure that it's localized. And it gets even more exciting for our area as well, because not only do you have to localize to the local market, but for us, you also have to localize to each type of sports fan. So every different type of sports fan interacts with sports in a slightly different way. For example, if I was watching boxing, I think I would probably want the sit-back experience where you sit back and you've got it in front of you on your TV. And in that case, we need to make sure that you can see DAZN and hear about DAZN and sign up to DAZN easily through your television, which requires commercial partnerships relationships in that space. Whereas on the other side, from a digital perspective, you might have someone who's down at the pub with their friends and they've just heard that there's been a fourth goal in this football match, and they have to see it now. And at that moment, they're going to grab their phone, and you'd better be integrated with the correct mobile phone for that customer so that they can sign up very quickly in that sense as well. So for us, it's about understanding not only the local market in a strictly global sense, but also in terms of what a customer considers to be local to their way of engaging with our content.
Yeah, so just clarify for me, which countries DAZN are in right now?
Gosh, I mean, the list is growing, but Japan, Germany, Austria, Switzerland, Canada, the US, I mean, this is huge. And for me, the biggest thing that I've learned is not to come to this with any preconceptions about how a customer wants to sign up to DAZN or engage with us. I walk into every market and we do user testing to understand exactly what a customer expects in a normal sign-up flow.
Yeah.
I mean, a great example for us would be, and I'll use the Japan example again because I just find it interesting and it's so different for us, is we did user testing in Japan and we discovered that customers like to read the full terms and conditions of service during the sign-up flow. So, as a company, it's really important to do that so that you understand it and you get that right. And it made us pay extra attention to those terms and conditions, make sure that they're easy to understand. But it's mostly about approaching the customer where they're going to come to us for that type of media.
Yeah. So, Yonatan, Google are one of the most dynamic media companies in the world. What is your approach, and how is this different to traditional broadcasters?
Yeah, so I want even to further build on what Justin was just saying, that I think that the two strategies that you need to take in order to be successful in the digital world is one, to think really hard about personalization, how you can approach different customers with different messaging based on the data that you can gather on them. And the second is about global scale. So those two strategic benefits were not existed in the fixed model of broadcaster linear TV that was regionalized, where every customer got the same experience. And I think maybe the best example to show the power of this product is actually looking at Facebook. So Facebook has, I think, 2 billion users, or maybe 2 billion daily users, and each of them get completely different experience when they go to the product. So think about the scale and the personalization that Facebook is leveraging. And we at Google also are taking advantage of those strategies with YouTube. Yeah. So YouTube is our video offering. And also with YouTube, we see more than 1 billion users a day, and actually more than 1 billion hours of video are being consumed every day. And most of this consumption is driven by personalization. Yeah. So while YouTube is a huge search engine, actually most of the content is based on the YouTube recommendation engine. So we try to understand every customer that come to YouTube, what his preference around length of video that he would like to consume, around topics he would like to further engage in, and we give him the right video at the right moment, and we see a lot of success by applying this strategy.
I completely agree, and I think it's really interesting what you say, because that's exactly what we've done with our landing pages, for example. So when you come to DAZN on the web, for example, we understand where you've come from and your digital footprint, and we use that to make sure that we explain to you that we have the content that you're after. It's no good if you come to our landing page and we just talk to you about, for example, the sport of competitive fishing, if you're not into fishing, if you're an NFL fan. And so we can use all of that data to make sure that at the time that you come to our landing page, you're really excited. And it's something that I guess you and I have been talking about a lot, which is understanding where the customer comes from. And for me, the big question when I think about DAZN is, why do people watch sport? And I think people watch sport for that really unique feeling that you get when you're part of this you're part of something bigger than you. You're part of a global fan community, and there's a feeling of fandom, right? And when someone comes to our landing page, we want them to feel that excited, warm, fuzzy feeling. And if you succeed at doing that by using data exactly as Yonatan says, then what you actually get is someone who goes through a sign-up flow, which normally is quite a boring administrative process, right? You're filling in a form, essentially. But we can generate excitement and give you that, almost that dopamine hit, that exciting feeling, so that you finish signing up to DAZN and you think, yes, I'm in, I've got it. Now I can watch that content that I really wanted. And if you don't take advantage of that personalization, then you've kind of got a drab, boring sign-up flow that might not grip someone, might end up with the person coming back later or not coming back at all.
Okay, so if you're not signed up for DAZN yet, you soon will be after that, right? So when we start talking about very fiercely loyal fans, so very passionate, especially in the sports fan base, very passionate people, clearly got a very defined audience on the sports side. What are the commercial opportunities? You talked about the payment, being able to subscribe to that quickly, the personalization of being able to create an experience, really a customer experience for these people who are coming. What are the opportunities to really drive and engage commercially with a very fierce sports base?
Yeah, of course, again, it comes back for us to the concept of where the customer will first encounter us and where they will arrive. We need to be present on the platforms that they're used to using and on the platforms that are coming up for them as well. It's interesting, actually, DAZN has an interesting relationship. For example, you might consider Sky to be a competitor of DAZN, but in fact, in Germany, we've partnered with Sky because customers expect to see DAZN on their Sky Q box. Or another example would be, for DAZN, we have Google actually is a pretty good example of a commercial partner that exists in a lot of different spaces, right? So we might work with Google on things like AI, but also on payments. But also for me, one of the most interesting commercial partnerships is almost behind the scenes. In terms of the sign-up flow, it's actually really important for a customer to be able to move through it really smoothly. And to make that happen, you have to have a lot of partnerships that happen behind the scenes to make sure that your payment is taken securely, to ensure that we reduce any risk of fraud as well. And a lot of the sort of bricks and mortar hidden behind the scenes, kind of looking a little bit like the ceiling in this room, the bits that you don't want to think about that are all there, all come together, and it's important that we have those. Similarly, for us, TV is huge, and so we spend a lot of time with the OEMs, Samsung, for example, or Sony, to make sure that we understand what their next UI is going to look like so that we can engage with the customer right there in a natural sense where they look up DAZN and we're there for them.
So, Yonatan, obviously, DAZN don't have any ads at the moment. You're a subscription-based service. But when we start looking at ad revenue, I think Google has an interest in that, right?
Yeah. So I think what Jessica is basically saying is that it comes down to the user experience.
Absolutely.
In every path of the way, you need to understand how to make sure that sign-up flows are easiest, that you can reach the content in a way that is native to you. And I think it comes down to the disruption of technology that we are seeing also change how we perceive products and technologies, and our expectations from products are that they would be personalized to us, that they will be fast, that they will be simple, that everything will be delightful, and that's what DAZN, I think, doing with based on Jessica's work. And I think that when we think beyond subscription, you can take this delightful experience to the space of ads. So definitely, I think that ads can be bad ads and good ads, and with the technologies to personalize the ads, you can actually create experiences that are delightful for the users. For example, we had a partnership with BT Sport, whereas we served the ads on their behalf, and we did a partnership with Domino's Pizza that before the game, you get an ad, click here and get the pizza before halftime. So this is an ad that gives you a very significant call for action in the context of where you see the ads. So you say, yeah, maybe by halftime it will actually be quite nice to have a pizza here. So this is the right ad at the right moment that really drive engagement in a way that is really measurable. So it can work for the users, for the buyers, and ultimately for the content owner. Another example is a YouTube ad that I personally watched. So I was looking to travel with my family, and I looked at travel videos, and an ad for traveling to Iceland popped into my feed based on the context of what I was watching. And the ad was so appropriate to me in the mind frame that I was doing, looking at travel videos, that I was happy to watch a 3-minute ad about traveling to Iceland. And I think this is a great example how ads in the right context, not necessarily anything about me personally that can make me feel a bit uncomfortable with the amount of data that is gathered by me, but just the right ad at the right context delivering me something that would be delightful for me. So I think definitely also in the ad space we can think of how we can use certain technologies that are available today to create a better experience for customers and buyers and content owners.
So the ads are actually adding to the customer experience in a way that is not creepy, as we were hearing about earlier from Mark, but is appropriate and actually delightful in terms of, yeah, I want to order a pizza right now before the game or at halftime, and it's going to and you click on that and it can happen, and it's seamless in terms of the way it works. You pick up payment, etc. Or the travel thing. It's interesting that you're saying you're happy to watch a 3-minute video on something around Iceland as you are going and choosing your holiday or traveling to Iceland. And I think there's a great point there for the audience here around the point of branding and content in that ad, in that again you still want the storytelling aspect, you still want that creative engagement that adds to the experience of what you, and if you do that, then you don't mind that. So if I then pitch the two of you against each other in a friendly kind of way, the difference between ads and subscription in terms of business model, Jess, let's start with you. How do you see that with DAZN, or your personal opinion of the right pricing and how that sort of balances with a potential advertising business model?
Yeah, so I mean, I think what Yonatan is saying is really funny because sometimes in Canada we have the Super Bowl, and we've actually had Canadian customers who write to us and say, can you show the ads, please? We missed the ads. So, I mean, sports is historically associated with advertising. We don't have advertising on DAZN, and we have a subscription model. It's a monthly subscription, cancelable, what everybody is used to seeing. And I always say, in my personal opinion, from a product perspective, I look at subscriptions, it's the price of 2 cups of coffee. It's an amount of money that, you know, you're paying for something and you're getting something in return. And in sports, I think the most interesting problem that we have is that because sports have historically been so expensive to watch through satellite packages, etc., and they've had really complex subscription models where you pay for this and then you get this bolt-on, and if you want this, you have to pay this bolt-on as well. And before you know it, you're in a 24-month contract. It can be very confusing. Takes things the other way, and we break it down so that as you're subscribing to DAZN, it's simple, and we try to make it incredibly clear to you. You pay your monthly subscription, this is what you get. And I think my general advice in terms of the industry and subscription models is don't make it, keep subscription simple, because at the point the customer is stopping a page, right, do I want this model or this model? Am I going to watch it like 5 times a day or 3 times a day? It's too difficult. You don't want the customer to think about it. You want them to know that they want to subscribe. You want to keep it simple, straightforward for them so that they don't feel like they're being tricked in any way. And be transparent so that they have confidence in your product the whole way through. And for me, it's been interesting in terms of, if you get that right at the beginning, not only is it a smooth sign-up flow, but you've also immediately got the trust of your customers. And that's irreplaceable when it comes to signing up for a product.
Okay, so simple is beautiful, no ads. Yonatan, what's your view on this?
Yeah, so I definitely see the value of simplicity and having one offering, but I think that for many businesses, they might be worth exploring how to differentiate customers and look at more nuances, business models that will suit every customer. I think one good example of that I personally like is the NBA, or the basketball league in the United States. They offer a lot of options to subscribe. You can buy a subscription for one team, or for one day, or for 1 month, or for the season. And I think by having a diversified portfolio of options, they can tap to different audiences. And also, when you think about it, they also sell the rights directly to BT Sport, I think it is, in the UK. And so there are many ways to access the same content, and this is tailored to different customers. And when you think about the mix between subscriptions and ads, or subscription and ads, I think again there is not necessarily a silver bullet to anyone, but rather in the digital world that we are living in, where you can do a lot of A/B testing and try to segment your audiences and go to with different propositions, you should really consider thinking about a broad view of propositions and see what works, and then doubling in on what works and test.
You're testing that with ITV Hub at the moment, is that right?
Yeah, so I think that some of us have seen the announcement that ITV are now going to work with the BBC together to bring BritBox, which is the subscription offering from the United States to the UK. So I think it's another example of how ITV and the BBC definitely both have the iPlayer and ITV Hub, the over-the-top proposition directly to consumers, but they can also think about a new proposition which is slightly different in partnership together to bring something that will be a subscription direct to consumer that might work to some people to pay for.
But through the various channels, whether it's through a linear channel or over-the-top subscription service like BritBox, for example, you're able to test different ad models to different platforms, different device, and see how that's working in terms of an experience and business model.
So at the end of the day, you would like to increase the revenue that you have from every viewer, and some viewers have different preferences. Some would never pay for subscription, and then ads would be absolutely the right model for them. And for some people who are happy to get a more in-depth experience, maybe they are bigger fans of your brand, then actually getting subscription would be the best way to capture the most amount of value out of them.
Okay, so let me stick with Google for a moment here. If we look at digital and data and combining those in terms of commercial opportunities, when is it appropriate to utilize that data, and to how far? And I want to start with you, Yonatan.
Yeah, so I think that, as I said before, there are many great opportunities to deliver great ads which are personalized, and I think that in many contexts this is the right thing to do for your partners, your advertisers' partners, and for your audience. But I think there are some scenarios where actually you want to drop this and actually rely on the old models. So one example is, some of you may have seen the latest John Lewis ad with Elton John for Christmas. I thought it was a wonderful ad, personally.
You're still loving this in February.
Yes, no, I was so touched by his story with it's more than a gift with a piano. Yeah, it's a great ad. So I think this type of ad you would not necessarily want to personalize to anyone. There is a real power about delivering an ad to the whole of the UK that everybody can see and enjoy and talk, something that is beyond any demographic or any region, and I think this is a great way to build your brand. So I think definitely when we think about addressable ads, this might be appropriate in some context, and in some contexts you want to use the data that you can leverage, but in some contexts you just want to deliver ads as they are. Sometimes the older models also work. By having the capabilities to show addressable ads, you can either get the best of both worlds, because you can tap into brand building budgets, but also more performance budgets and make the most of your content.
So it's combining that sort of brand building strategy, which could be your John Lewis Christmas ad that goes to everybody, but then combining that with a more personalized ad experience.
Yeah.
Jess, what's your thoughts on this? Obviously, DAZN don't have ads at the moment, but even your viewers are saying, the Super Bowl, for example, they want to see the ads. And again, it goes back to that experience of seeing the latest, WPP ad, for example, that comes out at the Super Bowl is a big moment. What's your thoughts on this?
Well, I think there are two different parts of this, right? And, I talked a little bit about keeping a really simple sign-up flow. And, I mean, as a product manager myself, I look at Spotify and I think that they have ads and they have a really clear proposition, because what they've done is they've told people up front what you're getting when you pay for each price point. And I think that's fine because they're clear about it. I mean, on the other kind of flip side of the coin, in terms of advertisements that get you to DAZN in the first place, I mean, I was in the States in October and I saw ads for DAZN on TV. And I thought, oh my goodness, on TV, but hang on, DAZN is a digital thing. And of course, you know, it goes exactly back to your point, where you want to have a sort of mass addressable ad there. And, you know, we've also run ads in the cinema in Germany, for example, around Christmas time when everyone's at the cinema. But by the time you get to the sign-up funnel on DAZN, the ad that took you into that place, the ad that took you into the digital world, the ad that picked you up and put you on the DAZN website, at that point, we know something about you, and to not personalize your experience the first time that you come to DAZN through a digital portal, I think would be a mistake. So we would absolutely use information to make sure that, you know, we're telling you when you come to the DAZN landing page, hey, we know you, and we know you love this event, and we're here to get you excited about this event. Come on in. And open the door for somebody in a really kind way that way.
Okay, so I'm going to put you both on the spot now, because we didn't rehearse this bit. But in terms of favorite ads at the moment, whether it's on TV, and you can't use John Lewis, or whether it's on TV or on a digital platform, what springs to mind in terms of recognition or ads brand connection for you right now?
I'm a sucker for cute animals, so I really like the meerkat ads for Compare the Market, and it's top of mind at the minute with Theresa May's comment yesterday as well. So it's got to be that for me.
Well, I would say more generally that I think that I really like the Nike ads.
Okay.
I think there is something about the connection of the way they sponsor athletes,
yeah,
and the connection that the brand building that they are doing, that everybody really recognize. When you think Nike, you think about the best athletes in the world. I think this is a great marketing job that they are doing.
I think I love the meerkats too. They are very cute. But what I love about the Nike ads is we work with Nike, and this isn't a plug, well, it is kind of. But we work with Nike, and they spend a lot of time on the customer experience and understanding what the journey is, whether it's kids working with art students at St. Martin's in the art school in London, to really look at how they want to connect. And interestingly, a lot of the feedback that we were getting was they want to feel an emotional connection to their sneakers. And for me, that was like, okay, that was a surprise. You know, these are kids as well as older people who are buying trainers or sports goods, etc. And I think what Nike have done very well is understand what is that sort of emotional connection to the brand. They haven't just thrown out that it has to all be about digital. They're including that as part of their customer journey and their customer experience right from design and involvement in that. And they're clearly delivering that, and we don't do this bit, but they're clearly delivering that over a range of different platforms that works really well for them. The Meerkat ads, are you seeing that digitally as well as, or OTT as well as on a broadcast?
I see them everywhere because I'm always having a little look around. Yeah, exactly, and I always like to see them. But I think what's interesting to me is that, I mean, obviously the Meerkat tugs at my heartstrings, but I think that actually when I think about what that advertisement really does for me is it always makes me chuckle a little bit inside. I'm a bit of a sucker for a bad joke. Yeah. And so if I have maybe that emotional connection is pulling me in some way, but it's certainly memorable. Okay,
so we've talked a lot about commercialization, personalization and data, but just sort of coming to the end of our session here, how do you see the best strategy for delivering an OTT experience? What is the sort of golden thread to make that work in terms of production and delivery of an OTT really personalized customer experience?
Yeah, so I think one of the best strategies to do is to look really cross-platform. I think every OTT production house would have maybe his favorite platform, a platform where he feels he has the most control. Sometimes it will be his own platform, or a platform of choice where he feels that the commercial works best for him, or he can bring the best experience for the users. But before you bring the customers to that your favorite platform, before that, the users are all over the place. Yeah. Some of them really rely on Twitter, some really rely on Facebook, some like Instagram, some likes YouTube, some likes the web. So, and I think it's really, really important to nail or to consider all platforms and to really think each one as a standalone. How you create a great platform for the person who likes Instagram? How do you create a great platform to the people who likes Twitter? And then once they become a fan of your brand, then they will understand naturally where do you want to take them, and then you can highlight it in that platform. So I think really think about the different platforms and the journey from someone who just get to know your brand until you bring him to the place you want to bring him, when you think you can deliver the best experience for him, is quite an important thing to take in mind.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Jess, I mean, DAZN have been phenomenally successful. I mean, you're known as the Netflix of sport in the industry, and I think that's actually a nickname that's truly deserved. But from your perspective, how do you deliver an amazing OTT content experience?
I mean, I have to say, I completely agree with what you've said. And I think for me, it starts with actually understanding who your customer is going to be, but really getting in their shoes. I mean, we've actually gone with people to hang out with them in their apartment and watch how they watch TV. Spend a day with your customer and see who they really are, and take all your own personal expectations and leave them behind. And I think for me, for example, we have a statistic about how customers who sign up on TV are more likely to stay with DAZN. And that's because customers who sign up on TV are more likely to watch more content on DAZN, and that all makes sense. But in order to really understand where that comes from, separate correlation from causation, you actually have to spend some time with people to understand, are there customers who only watch on their TVs?
Yeah.
And that's, you've just got them because they're loyal fan bases. Or are there customers who like to, be watching on their mobile on the way home, and then the second they get to their flat, turn on the TV, and then it picks up right where they left off. And to really be there for your customer. I read a really interesting article in the New Yorker. It was a couple months ago now. It was actually talking about Google, so there you go. And it was talking about how people no longer think to themselves, I need to figure out where I'm going. I'm going to get my phone out and open Google Maps, and Google Maps will tell me. That these days people just say, oh, I need to figure out where I'm going. I know how to get there. And they think that they know, but in fact they're using Google Maps as that tool. Google Maps for them has become a part of them. And that's how I see, for a great OTT service, the other side of it, which is, all right, I want to watch sport, I just go to DAZN. I have the sport I wanted to get, it's just DAZN is just part of it, and DAZN becomes part of you. If you've really mastered the experience, it's not about thinking logically through steps and pulling your phone out of your pocket or sitting down to watch TV. It just becomes a part of your lifestyle, and we're there for you instead of being a chore.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier, Jess, that the simple payment structure that you have, comparable to 2 cups of coffee, so a $5.99, $6.99 a month type subscription, which is a really cool description, by the way. Do you see a future where you could be looking at transactional content? So let's say I'm a Mets fan and I'm traveling from the States to the UK, and I want to watch a specific game while I'm away in a different country, different rights issues, etc. So you're actually going back to what Yonatan mentioned earlier, this sort of transactional, very specific, I want to watch this wherever I am in the world. Do you see a future of transactional sports content consumption?
I think that's really interesting, and I think it's tempting for us to kind of think about how you can use sports on the move, and realistically, most people tend to watch their content in their home country, which helps us a lot. And the sports rights market is very clear on where you can and can't watch things. And in order to have strong partnerships with our sports partners, we have to be really clear on only allowing customers to watch that content in the right place. But we have seen great things. So for example, we launched in Italy last year, and we had customers who previously missed the beginning of the football season because they were on holiday in August on the beach with their families, and they couldn't watch the football they wanted to see. Well, now they can, and they're sitting there on the beach with their family, and they've got their mobile phone out, and they can watch the football game right there. So when you can bring that to someone and allow them to just be part of it, I think what people expect now is for content to simply be a part of their lives. And that seems straightforward. That's the simple answer for me.
So Yonatan, in terms of brands becoming their own OTT player, for example, we work with the FA. The FA have fantastic content, and they want to start looking at how they're able to connect directly with their audiences. Are you seeing that as a growth area, which is huge for this audience in terms of brands themselves, whether it's sports companies, wanting to create their own OTT experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that barriers to entry the video market were never been lower. So in the past, in order to get your content into TV, there are so many hurdles of producers and power structures, and these days everybody can broadcast themselves, and not only in one platform but in multiple platforms. And I think that also with the cloud revolution, with that obviously Amazon has started, but there are many, and Google is also in this space and helping many partners to be successful there. It's quite easy to spin up your own over-the-top platform, but you can start with either one of the more like easy to enter social platforms like YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, and then you can go quite easily to your own platform. And with, I think, what part of the things I already said is the way to experiment. So you start on one platform, you start on one business model, you can really A/B test stuff quite easily. And I remember I was hearing that for almost every niche you would find around the world some thousand of people who would be happy to engage in this niche. So I think whatever you are passionate about, or you want to bring it forward, definitely have a go, and the world is your oyster in that regard.
Yeah. So I think it goes back to an earlier point you were both saying around partnerships and collaboration. And I think, within the industry, I mean, it's an obvious thing to say. It's really super important that we do have those partnerships and collaborations in place, but it isn't always that easy. So I'd like to ask you, as a final note, because we're being told we're nearly out of time, what do you think how do we move forward as an industry to collaborate more? What are your thoughts on that in terms of real partnership to deliver to the consumer what they need and they want in terms of their content?
I think you can learn a lot actually from actually spending more time with your partners. A lot of people treat their partners at a bit of an arm's distance as a commercial partner. We do the opposite. We bring our partners in and we try to understand our own partners' expertise. Just because you're sitting here, I'll use Google again as an example. But for example, if you had a customer who was going to sign up and pay through Google's payment methods, right? Or even using Apple, for example, and paying via iTunes, use the expertise that your partner has, because what happens is we sit down and we think we know our DAZN customers really well, or we really understand how sports fans sign up in a simple way, and we can optimize for that process. But actually, your partner knows a huge amount of information about what the best way of dealing with that sign-up flow or that part of the partnership works. I think the most successful partnerships come out of thinking about why is the customer interested in this partner in the first place, and then leveraging your partner's expertise to make sure that you actually make the most of that partnership that you've created. Without that, I think you're missing a huge opportunity.
Yonatan, I'll finish with you.
I can't agree more with what Jessica was saying. I think that there is so much place for collaboration in this space, and the essence is really to listen to your partners, really understand where is the place you can deliver value. Obviously, with Google we have a lot of products, and almost we partner with almost every company in one shape or form, and the challenge for me personally coming to a partner is just to understand where it is most appropriate, where I can deliver the most amount of value to any partner. And the only way to understand it is to really be open and sit and listen and understand the challenges and where we can mutually be fruitful for each other.
Fantastic, thank you. I'm being told we're out of time. Do we have any time for questions, or should we take that offline? We have a couple of minutes. Are there any questions from the floor? Go for it. We've got 2 minutes. Thank you.
Hello, good. So it's kind of a subscription ads-based question. So with more and more OTT platforms being launched, I would say the greatest challenge that a subscription-based model faces is that your average customer has to choose what platforms they subscribe to. I've got a finite budget. I'm going to pick Netflix and Amazon. Why would I pick DAZN? So I kind of think, like, what are you doing to confront that issue? What are you doing that makes people pick DAZN over Netflix if they've only got a fixed price monthly budget?
Yeah, it's a good question. So for me, it's pretty simple. We give you a flexible option, so you sign up and you can pay for DAZN You get 1 month free right now, and what we have is you get a month for free, and then it's monthly rolling subscription. You can cancel anytime. So it's the reassurance and trust that you get with having the monthly flexible subscription compared to what many people get now, which are 12 and 24 month larger contracts. But more than that, I think it's actually the vast array of sports that we have, the fact that we're going to have your sport. In many markets, we have your sport exclusively, so if you want to watch, come to us. It's about quality of service and delivering that, and then delivering it across all the different platforms that you would like to watch on. So that you can whip out your mobile phone and then walk into your flat and watch, or maybe have a little cheeky watch of a game at lunch on your computer. I think the most important thing is to be there wherever you want to watch sport and to have that content.
Great answer. Okay, I'm going to wrap it up there, but we are around for a couple of minutes after the session, so if you don't get the chance to ask your question now, apologies. You do straight after the session. So let me say thank you to my panel, to Jess Arden from DAZN, to Yonatan Matalon from Google. It has been fantastic talking to you. Thank you everybody here for joining us. It's a packed stage back there, so thank you very much, and we are around if you'd like to talk. Thank you.
Thank you.